We all know Black Friday. For most of us, it's the official, slightly chaotic start to the holiday season. It's a day of massive discounts, long lines, and a mad dash for the best deals. It is a cultural phenomenon, a good mine for retailers, and for a lot of people, it's a beloved, if slightly crazy tradition. The name itself seems to make perfect sense, right? It's the one day of the year when retailers finally see their profits go from in the red to in the black. It's supposed to be a celebration for the economy. But that story is a complete myth. A clever marketing line invented to cover up a much darker and more chaotic history. The real story behind the name has nothing to do with holiday cheer. The very first Black Friday wasn't about shopping at all. It was a day of financial ruin, a catastrophic market crash in 1869 that wiped out fortunes and nearly crippled the American economy. So, how did a term for economic disaster become the biggest shopping day of the year? Well, the truth is far more shocking than you do think. To find the real origin of Black Friday, you have to go back to the aftermath of the Civil War. For centuries, the adjective black has been used to describe days of calamity, and on Friday, September 24th, 1869, America experienced a true financial catastrophe. Two notoriously ruthless Wall Street financiers, Jay Gould and James Fix, decided to hatch an audacious scheme. They planned to corner the entire nation's gold market. The strategy was simple: buy up as much gold as they possibly could, create an artificial scarcity, and drive the price sky high. They even used their connections to President Grant's administration, roping in the president's own brother in law to try and keep the US Treasury from selling its gold, which would have stabilized the price. For a few weeks, their plan actually worked. The price of gold soared, and gold and fixed were poised to make an obscene profit, but the scheme was a house of cards. When President Grant finally caught on to the manipulation, he took decisive action. He ordered the Treasury to release $4 million of government gold onto the market. The result was immediate and devastating. The price of gold plummeted in minutes and the market crashed. Fortunes were wiped out and investors were ruined. The crash sent shockwaves through the stock market, brought foreign trade to a standstill, and devastated farmers as crop values plummeted. That day of greed, corruption, and financial ruin became known as Black Friday, a black eye for the Grant presidency and a traumatic event in American history. For nearly a century, that's what the name meant: disaster. So, how did this term, born from a Wall Street crisis, become associated with the day after Thanksgiving? For that, we must fast forward almost 100 years to the 1950s and 60s in the city of Philadelphia. Every year, on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, Philadelphia hosted the massive Army Navy football game. This drew enormous crowds into the city for the whole weekend. On the Friday after Thanksgiving, waves of suburban shoppers and tourists could descend on the city's downtown shopping district right as football fans were arriving for the game. The result was pure chaos. The streets were choked with traffic, and sidewalks were so packed you could barely move. With the stores completely overwhelmed, shoplifting ran rampant. For the Philadelphia Police Department, it was an absolute nightmare. They started calling this day Black Friday. It was a totally negative term. No police officers were allowed to take the day off. Instead, they were forced to work grueling 12-hour shifts to deal with the gridlock, accidents, and crime. The name had nothing to do with politics. It was all about the headache and mystery the day caused for law enforcement. The term became so common in the city that by 1961, local reporters were using it to describe the post-Thanksgiving mayhem. You can imagine the city's retailers were exactly thrilled with the name. It sounded dark and grim. They even tried to rebrand the day, launching a PR campaign to call it Big Friday to put a positive spin on the shopping rush. But the new name never stuck. The term the cops used, Black Friday, was just too memorable. For years, Black Friday was mostly just a Philadelphia quirk, a piece of local slang for a day of intense traffic. But as the phrase slowly started to spread to other parts of the country in the late 1970s and early 1980s, national retailers faced a problem. They loved the sales, but they hated the negative name. How could you market one of the most important shopping days of the year with a name that literally meant chaos and disaster? So they did what marketers do best. They changed the story. In the 1980s, the retailers began to actively push a new, much friendlier origin story. They claimed Black Friday was the day that stores finally turned a profit for the year, using an old accounting practice where losses were recorded in red ink and profits in black ink. They created the in the red to in the black narrative. This new explanation was a stroke of marketing genius. It took a town with a deeply negative history and transformed it into a symbol of retail success and economic prosperity. One of the earliest published mentions of this new negative appeared in 1981, and by the late 80s, it had become the universally accepted explanation. The real origins, the financial crash, and the Philly police were almost completely forgotten. The rebranding was so successful that today, the in the black myth is what most people believe to be the truth. With a shiny new positive name, retailers were free to turn Black Friday into the spectacle we know today. Throughout the 90s and 2000s, the events was just kept escalating. Stores started opening earlier and earlier, 4 6 a.m., then 5 a.m., and then the midnight openings began. They introduced door busters deals, heavily discounted items in limited quantities designed to create a frenzy and lure shoppers in at dawn. Then the internet showed up and changed the game completely. In 2005, the term Cyber Monday was joined to describe the surge in online shopping as people returned to work after the holiday weekend and shop from their office computers. What was once a single day of sales quickly morphed into a 4-day shopping weekend and now is often a month-long event people call Black November. Today, Black Friday is a global event. The numbers are staggering. On Black Friday 2024, Americans consumers spent a record 10.8 billion online dollars alone, globally spending it nearly 75 billion in just 24 hours. Over 81 million people in the US shopped in physical stores, while a whopping 87 million shop online. Projections for 2025 show the trend continuing, with US online sales expected to surpass 11.7 billion. Mobile shopping now dominates the scene, and buy now, pay later services are surging in popularity, encouraging even more spending. Today, Black Friday is a global event. The numbers are staggering. On Black Friday 2024, American consumers spent a record $10.8 billion online alone. Globally, spending hit nearly 75 billion in just 24 hours. Over 81 million people in the US shopped in physical stores, while a whopping 87 million shopped online. Projections for 2025 show the trend continuing, with US online sales expected to surpass $11.7 billion. Mobile shopping now dominates the scene, and buy now, pay later services are surging in popularity, encouraging even more spending. The story of Black Friday is a fascinating look at how language, culture, and marketing collide. It shows how a term for disaster can be completely transformed into a celebration of consumerism. But what do you think? Has Black Friday gone too far? Or is it just a harmless tradition? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed uncovering this hidden story, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the stories you thought you knew. The psychology of Black Friday is built on a powerful emotion: the fear of missing out. Limited time offers and the illusion of scarcity create a sense of urgency that can override our rational decision making. We get a rush of gratification when we snag a deal, and that feeling can be addictive. From a day of financial ruin on Wall Street to a traffic clog nightmare for Philadelphia police to a masterful marketing rebrand, the term Black Friday has had a truly wild journey. It's a journey that reveals more about our own behavior and the powerful forces of consumer culture than it does about holiday shopping. The next time you see a Black Friday ad, you will know the real story. A story that began not with a shopping cart, but with a catastrophic crash. See you on my next video.